From the Library of Congress and the Smithsonian National Museum of African American History and Culture.
This is Tuesday, the 24th of May, 2011. My name is Joe Monnier of the Southern Oral History Program at the University of North Carolina at Chapel Hill. I'm in Oklahoma City, Oklahoma, with filmmaker John Bishop, and we are here for the joint project of the Library of Congress and the Smithsonian's National Museum of African American History and Culture, a National Oral History series called, no problem, called the Civil Rights History Project.
See ya. Thank you. I'm sorry.
No trouble at all. And we're just easing into a first of what will be two sessions this afternoon. One with Miss Marilyn Hildreth. Her surname at birth, of course, is Luper, and then her brother Calvin Luper. Ms. Hildreth, thank you so much for welcoming us to Oklahoma City. It's a real honor and pleasure to be with you. Thank you.
Thank you for coming.
We're interested, obviously, to hear really about to begin, about your mother. Of course, we'll want to hear much from you about your own experience directly, as you were right in the middle of all of what happened in the late 50s, early 60s here in Oklahoma City. But could I ask you just to talk a little bit to begin about your mother?
I would love to. That's a good starting point. My mother has been an educator most of her life. She had an opportunity to teach at Dungy High School, which is in Spencer, Oklahoma. Some of us call the country. Young people that have never ever had any opportunities to see anything but their immediate environments. Mom wrote a play called Brother President, the story of Martin Luther King, and the young people at Dungy were able, she wrote it, and they produced the play. A guy by the name of Herbert Wright with NAACP was here in Oklahoma City and saw the play and invited the group of young people to the NAACP National Convention to produce Brother President. Oh, everyone was so excited, but by her being a history teacher, she decided to give us a lesson in history. Before Brother President, if you could walk with me through the streets of Oklahoma City during that period of time, we could go down in downtown Oklahoma City and shop in any store, but you could not try on a hat. You could not try on shoes. When my grandmother went to buy me shoes, she had to take some thread and tie a knot in it to determine the size shoe that she would buy for me to wear. You could not eat in any restaurant. You would have to go to the back of the restaurants and they would pass you a brown bag. Come on and keep walking with me in Oklahoma City. We could not live across Northeast 7th Street in Oklahoma City. We could not use the same telephone booths. One was earmarked white and the other colored. We could not even drink out of the same water fountains. And I could continue on and on, but I just wanted you to feel where we were coming from in this period of time. So the advisors and the young people that were involved in Brother President got together and said, okay. Mom said, I'll tell you what I'm going to do. We're going to go the northern route, and we're going to come back the southern route. Everybody was so excited. And when that trip started, and we started to New York City, something happened. For the first time in our lives, we were able to go and sit down and drink a Coke in a restaurant. We were able to go in a same restaurant as everybody else and eat a hamburger. We were even able to drink out of the same water fountain as other folks. Oh, we've never seen anything like this because 100% of the people on that trip, the young people, had never been out of Oklahoma. So we thought that that's the way it was supposed to be in Oklahoma and the United States of America. Oh, we went to New York and we had a wonderful time. The experiences and being able to tour all the great historical monuments there.
You were about 11 years old.
No, I was younger. So what happened was, on our way back, we came back the Southern Road and faced the age-old discrimination. The same thing that we thought that we had to go through, and found out that we didn't. We were slapped in the face with it again. They used to tell us, they said, a little bit of freedom is a dangerous thing. So when we came back to Oklahoma City, we were all whole and ready to go because we had had that taste of freedom. And we started negotiating with the restaurants here in Oklahoma City, and they told us that they didn't want to deal with us. And it kept going on, and it seemed like forever to me. And one Monday night at our house at 1819 Northeast Park, we were having an NAACP Youth Council meeting. And I was 8 years old at that time. That's how I can remember that I was not at 10 years old. And we were talking about our experiences and our negotiation. And I made a motion that we would go down to Cat's drugstore and just sit. Just sit and sit until they served us. Needless to say, a lot of people were not happy about it. And as a matter of fact, some of them were really mean to us. They would spit on us. They would kick us. They would call us names. They would tell nigger go home. But that didn't deter us. And most of the young people, the 13 original sit-ins, were young people. And we didn't know fear as fear like we know now. We thought we were on a job and on a mission and something that we had to do. So we continued to go back and we continued to sit in. And as you know, we went from restaurant to restaurant to restaurant until the walls of segregation started falling down in Oklahoma City. Oh, many interesting things happened.
I want to ask you, for example, Cats.
Cats,
Excuse me. Mm-hmm. Cats desegregates its lunch counter in a couple of days.
Yes.
A couple other businesses do the same.
Yes.
In fairly quick order.
Yes.
How did that feel? And what did that suggest to you about your activism and its prospects?
That the walls came tumbling down. We were on a mission, and the mission would not be complete. It was like a strategy during the war. That mission would not be complete until every restaurant in Oklahoma City would allow people of color and would not discriminate because of the fact that they were black.
Your mother, as a leader of this group, I think what was the approximate age range of those 13 children that first night at Cats?
6 to about 16.
About 16, yeah. Your mother would become such a focal point and such a leader across the next 6 years in all of the protest activity, all the direct action. And I'm interested, too, in your thoughts about her as a woman in that role of leadership, because, of course, most of the local hierarchy of every other sort would have been male.
At that particular time, I did not look at it like that. My mother came from a very interesting family. Her father was a dreamer, and my mother was a dreamer. My mother was a reader, an educator, and she believed that we as a race of people could not advance unless we were educationally equipped. I laugh because a lot of kids would get a lot of toys for Christmas, we would get books. It's something she believed in, and when she believed in something strong enough, she would go to the end of the world for it. And I often wondered where she got her strength from. Because for me to sit here and tell you it was easy for her, they tried to fire her from the school system. People in the white community hated her. People in the black community did not want to be associated with. It was not easy during that time.
How did she hang on to her job?
God. As a matter of fact, tell you something you don't know. They had come to a teacher in the Dungy school system to promote him to be principal, and he could become principal. Only job he had to do was fire Clara Luper. That's the only thing he had to do in order to become principal. He did not do it. And as the history, you look back over the time, the road that she's come, it was hard, it was difficult. But one thing about it that I just love to death, you could knock her down, but you could not keep her down. And she would tell the kids, and she would prepare us to participate in the sit-in movement by teaching us the nonviolent movement.
Do you know of people that you can knock down but you can't keep down? If so, let me know in the comments.
The social change, what could happen if we would do this and we would do that? We could not win with violence. Every morning we had the same lesson. She would tell us, if you're not tough enough, go to the hardware store and buy you some tough skin and get tough. Because life is not fair. You must be prepared and you must continue to fight. That's what she taught us. She taught us about Gandhi and the nonviolent movement. We had to learn the steps. We had to learn how to be free. So, now.
Let me ask you another thing about your mother. This is so interesting. In Behold These Walls, your mother's memoir, autobiography about that era, she says at one point, I was very struck by this, she says at one point that she alludes to, in essence, to that she wasn't really a person to feel too much fear. And yet, she encountered so many situations, and many of them were full of all kinds of risks and dangers and aggressive, hostile people. And I'm just wondering if you can talk a little bit about your mother's kind of who she was organically and how that related to the role that she played as an activist.
My mother came from
And leader.
a place called Hoffman, Oklahoma, in Offusky County. She would always say that she was top in her class. She was in the top 5 of her class, but there was only 5 students in her class. She did not have the same textbooks in Hoffman as they had in other schools. They had the leftover books. So she would tell me when they would start reading a story and get to page 9, it might not, the pages would start again at page 21. And for years and years, I asked myself, where did my mom get that toughness? How could she keep on kicking? No matter what. I've seen her in the adversity she's been through. But then I started thinking, really thinking. I thought about her father. I thought about her mother. I thought about her brother that died because he was not allowed to be treated in a hospital only because that he was black. I think that was the basic foundation in her strong belief in God that gave her that added strength. Because what she would say, what happened to my brother, no child deserves that.
Have you ever been treated a certain way just because of your skin color?
So she continued and she fought with injustice as long as she could, and she's still fighting. She's still hanging on. But I'm going to tell you something. I think that during this whole crisis, I've only seen my mother face fear once that I can remember. I know there must have been many times, but the time that it impacted me the most We were coming home from a freedom rally, and we had old raggedy cars, because all the kids rode in our car. You could look out and see the ground a lot of times, but we rode anyway, a whole car full of people all the time. And we were coming home from this rally, and we noticed that a group of white guys, men, were behind us in an old pickup truck. And I thought that they were just going to pass us or whatever, but they didn't. And the closer that we would get to home, our destination, the closer they would follow us. So the spokesperson for the NAACP Youth Council is a young lady who's now a professor at a university down in Georgia by the name of Barbara Posey. And her father was a big man. And when I say big, he was a big man. And Mom told Calvin and I, that these people are following us. And this is what I want you to do. When I turn this corner on Northeast 14th, I'll be blowing my horn, and I want you to run up to the posts and knock on that door as hard as you can. I don't know what these guys want, but whatever they want, it's not right. Now, do you understand me? Don't say anything, but do exactly what I tell you to do. Open that door. I'm going to drive up there as close to the steps as I can get, and run and knock that door down. And that's what we did. But when we did that, and they let us into the house, my mother drove away. I think that that's one of the greatest fears that I've ever had, because my thought was, will I see my mama again? Is it worth it that my mother would not come back to us? Every time I think about that, I just say thank you, God, for the experience, and thank you for letting my mom come back home to us.
I want to ask about your mom's relationship with a couple different sets of folks. One is your family. You were members of which church?
Fifth Street Baptist.
Exactly. And can you talk a little about your mother's relationship with your pastor and the community of the network of black pastors in the city?
She was loved by some. She was feared by some, and disliked by some. That's just the way it was.
And the reasons were?
Fear. We met in the churches that we would meet at. Many of them were threatened. Some of the congregation didn't want us there because they were scared that their church would be bombed. But then those are the people that stood up with us. So as you know, by being a historian that you are, that the civil rights movement here was based on the small people, the have-nots, the maids, the garbage workers. We did not have a lot of the professional black people involved because of the fear of losing their jobs. And even my grandmother was a maid. And my grandmother, in order to educate my mother and her two other siblings, moved into the servant quarters in Nichols Hills to nurse somebody else's kids in order to educate my mom. And during the civil rights movement, my grandmother was still a maid. With the nickels and dimes and the sweat and the tears. But then those that were committed to the movement were committed. We used to sing a song, I ain't gonna let nobody turn me around. And that's what we did. And some of them had to write notes and they would put it under our door. The strategy, because they didn't want to physically be seen becoming involved in it. But somebody had to stand up.
Let me ask you too about.
Let's pause just a sec to.
We're back on after a short pause. I want to ask too about your mother and the youth councils and all the sort of the whole community of folks who took action, the relationship of that community to the local police department. We touched on this before we began our filming today. I'm really interested in the role of law enforcement in all of those many protest moments when, because Oklahoma City on balance was relatively free of heavy violence.
Mm-hmm. We had some small incidents of violence, but I think that Oklahoma City consciously made a decision that we did not want to become the focus point of America through the violent aspects of it. And we had a good relationship with the police department. Mom was only arrested 26 times. She was not beaten up. You know, we were arrested. But I think that somewhere along the line that Oklahoma City leadership knew that they was doing a great injustice to all of its residents. And that's why I think that we did not have any violence. Because the good people decided, okay, let them protest. I don't know what happened, but we're not going to be a part of it. But then you had some other people that were kind of mean. Guy threw a chimpanzee on me.
I'm going to ask you just to say that again and explain in a little more detail, because someone hearing this later might actually not understand that you're being literally truthful about that. Yeah.
No, I'm being truthful.
Yeah.
We were protesting, picketing. I want my freedom. Walking around and the man threw a chimpanzee on me. You know, a chimpanzee. I was very small then. I'm a little heavier now, but I was very small then. And chimpanzee was almost as big as I was, and that was not a good day. That was not a good day.
I want to ask a couple more things about your mother, and then I want to ask you about some of your
Okay.
what you were a child, really,
Mm-hmm.
Relatively young child, moving through a lot of this. Where do you think ultimately your mother's political savvy came from? And she seemed to be a very skillful manager of all of the issues that needed to be managed to move forward in a successful way. Did she have innate skills in that area? Do you think it was part of what she had studied? She was a historian. Do you think she had key allies who helped her debate those issues and come up with good strategies? I'm interested in your perspective on that.
I think it was all of the above. Her hobby was to read congressional records. Now, who reads congressional records every day? I mean, that's what she did. We have thousands of congressional records where she's underlined the high points. She knew everybody, from everybody here in Oklahoma. People that could make a difference and people could not. She knew, and she was like the voice of the people. When they had problems, when they had their problems became struggles, when their hope was lost, they came to her. Nothing just happens. I think that she was groomed in history for her day.
Can you talk a little about your dad and his relation to all of this?
Well, my mother and dad got divorced at an early age, right in the midst of it. It was a lot for him to handle. He was an electrician. He was a fun-loving, crazy. You would love to be around him because he's always laughing and joking. But I think that the real pressure that he couldn't handle. That's what I really think. We never discussed it. He died a few years ago. But it was just, I think, too much for him to deal with.
Tell me about when you think back through all of those protests, all of those long, repeated, difficult protests for years. What are some of the things that stand out in your memory as the most important things to tell someone about all of that, so that they understand kind of the essence of, if it can be explained in any shorthand way? I'm not sure it can, but
It can be. Every Saturday of my young life it was spent protesting. We did not have the joys of going to amusement parks because they were not open to us. And even after they became open, most of the young people that participated in the sit-ins did not have the money to even attend the amusement parks. The closeness of the young people that participated in the movement throughout, not just Oklahoma, but throughout this nation, is one that you can't really understand unless you were there. We celebrated our 50-year anniversary here, and young people came from all over the United States to be a part, standing room only. And oh yeah, and they started telling about their experiences and what they remember. We made recordings, anything that we can, because I'm so glad that we sat down here in Oklahoma City. Because if we had not sat down here in Oklahoma City, young people throughout this nation would not have stood up. And when we think about it, it's like a whirlwind effect. And we did not realize the importance of what we were doing. We just wanted to make the social changes here. But little did we know that it would have the whirlwind effect and change American history.
Let me ask about one last major theme. 1972, your mother ran for the United States Senate.
Mm-hmm.
And let's see, by 72, you were about how old?
Oh, I don't know. That'd be terrible. Older than I was.
Older than you?
Yeah.
Tell us about your. That's no small undertaking, and I'm interested to have your recollections about that effort.
I thought my mom had gone crazy, but it was a lot of fun, and I enjoyed joining her on the political campaign, because you can't out debate mom, because you're not going to out read mom, and she's going to be totally focused on whatever she's discussing, whether it's the governmental system. And if you start talking about government, she's been studying government for the last 50 years, or the educational system, because she taught for 40 years. I mean, it was just well versed in all the issues. And she would go to little bitty small towns. I mean, towns that are as big as this couch. No black folks, and would say the same thing as she traveled throughout the state. And people of all races and creeds and colors were surprised that she was doing that, but they supported her. And I think that if she had just a little bit longer, a little bit more time, or the year was different in history, that she would have, if she elected, she would have made the greatest change that Oklahoma would have ever seen.
Do you remember primary day?
Oh yeah, we lost, but that's okay. Like she said, that's okay. We tried.
Do you remember what she polled? What percent of the vote? Do you remember?
No, I sure don't. But surprisingly, it was more than people thought that she would throughout the state of Oklahoma. But I really, in all honesty, I can't remember right now. There's been a lot of water under the bridge since that time.
Did she ever consider taking another run at public office?
No. And I can't answer why. That was her decision.
John, let's pause for just a second. Good thing to talk about.
Okay, we're rolling.
Oh,
We're back on after a short break. And to conclude today, we're going to talk a little bit about the sanitation workers' strike in the city in, I think, summer '68.
mm-hmm.
And your mother served as spokesperson. And can you share some recollections about that episode?
The sanitation workers represented a segment of our community that were overworked and underpaid. I often wondered why she was selected as a spokesperson. And I asked some of the sanitation workers why she was selected. And I was told that she understood the problem. She would be honest, and she was a woman of integrity. And if she said something, she would stand by and fight to the end. And many times during the sanitation strike, I think they thought the end was coming too. Because on that Black Friday, and Oklahoma City has never seen anything like it did that day. But it helped change the city. It helped change us because I think that somewhere we started to understand that so goes one of us, so goes all of us. And if you fail, I fail. And if I fail, you fail. We're all in this pot together. The other thing is that I think the mom represented people that just couldn't represent themselves. You asked me if was she afraid? Not that I know of. And she taught me this. And she would say it to me every day. First of all, she would say, when she would wake me up in the mornings, she would say, do you want to continue your education today? That's number one. And in the evening, she would say, when we would complain about anything, she would always have made us learn this, to believe in the rain when the rain didn't fall, and to believe in the sun when the sun didn't shine, and believe in a God that you've never seen. That's who Clara Luper is.
So thank you so much for sharing part of your afternoon with us today and welcoming us to Oklahoma City. And we're very, very pleased to have talked to you about your mother and yourself and your family in this context. Thank you.
You're welcome.
This video raises questions, and I need for you to be extremely honest in the comments when answering them. And just so you know, I have 3 questions, so please be honest when answering them. Number 1, have you ever done something to someone that they wasn't happy about? Number 2, do you have a problem with change? And number 3, where does your strength come from? Now please be honest when answering these questions. Share this video with anyone you deem necessary. And don't forget to like and subscribe to the channel.